What up, KC fam? Community manager Peter here, back at it again. I'm going to spotlight myself for just 1 second. There we go. We got the wonderful Ace Cowans here. Going to get a little intro on you guys. Ace Cowans is a crypto NFT enthusiast with desire to educate others about Web3 principles. Ace studied a lot about blockchain, trying to understand its potential influence and the future that awaits. Ace will dive deep into the foundations of what an NFT is, how creators use it. He'll be covering how to get started, barriers to entry, NFT implementations, and more. He'll also be bringing on a guest speaker, Spire here, which is in the chat, and which will be spotlighted as well during the session, who is a filmmaker and director working on a sci-fi project. He's been looking into the possibility of incorporating NFTs into his franchise and looks forward to educating you on how to do so for your future projects. Without further ado, Ace Cowans. Of course, I have to read it. I don't want to butcher it on winging it.
Sure.
But
yeah, no problem.
Ace, take it away, my friend.
Thank you for the intro, and hello to everybody that's here. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to be here with your community doing this presentation on NFTs, which are a really exciting and relevant topic in the world of cryptocurrency and the internet today. So, my goal for this presentation really is to break down what an NFT is really simply for you all, and then talk about some of the current utility that is being implemented in today's NFT world, and then talk about sort of the future of NFTs. And luckily we have a really great guest, my friend Logan Stone, who is, as Peter mentioned, the creator of a sci-fi trilogy franchise called Spire. And so he's going to be coming on towards the end to chat about what he's doing with NFTs and his project. So that's very exciting, and we're really grateful that he's here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And yeah, we'll get right into it. So intro to NFTs. The first thing that I think is relevant to do is really just to break down the term NFT. What does it stand for, first off? So NFT stands for non-fungible token. And I think a lot of people get hung up on the word fungibility. What is the definition of fungibility? So the definition of fungibility is the ability of a good or an asset to be interchanged with other individual goods or assets of the same type. And so rather than try to explain it completely myself, I figured better just to share a quick little 1-minute video. So I'm just going to share that really quickly, and then we'll come back to the presentation. So hopefully you can all see and hear this. It's from Investopedia. So highly recommend to use Investopedia as a resource if you want to learn more about fungibility, NFTs, and cryptocurrency. After this, it's a great resource, but this video is right on the page when you search for fungibility. So here it is.
Fungibility refers to a good's or asset's interchangeability with another good or asset. Fungible assets simplify the exchange process because they're assumed to possess the same value. Gold is fungible because 1 ounce of gold equals another ounce of gold. A gallon of gas is fungible because all gallons of gas are the same. But a pair of pants is not fungible. Not all are the same. Each brand and style has a unique value, and you wouldn't want to wear someone else's pants. In addition to certain commodities, fungible financial instruments include cash, since $1 US is the same as another US dollar. Stocks, options, and futures contracts for the same company are also fungible. Whether you buy shares of XYZ Corporation in its home country or on a foreign exchange, they're still shares of XYZ stock.
Cool. So hopefully that made some sense and allows for a little context moving forward in this presentation. But essentially, I like to think of fungibility sort of as a spectrum. And on one end of the spectrum, you have things that are completely fungible. Some examples that were mentioned were the US dollar, lumber, gasoline is a good example, credit card points, things that the market has sort of decided that one unit is the same as another unit, whether it's in your pocket or mine. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have things that are completely non-fungible or completely unique. So those would be one of one assets, like a painting, like the Mona Lisa, for example, your home, a URL. All those things are one-of-one assets. And then sort of in the middle, you can take things like a piece of clothing, like Yeezy sneakers, for example. They're scarce, but they're not completely unique. So all of those different things fall on the spectrum of fungibility. And as we talk more about NFTs, you'll sort of gain an idea of where the digital assets that we're going to talk a lot about fall on that spectrum. So just to dig a little bit deeper into fungibility before we move forward, it's cool to think about different assets in terms of their fungibility and also their tangibility. So in the top left quadrant of this diagram, we have assets that are fungible but intangible. So things like Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, carbon credits, digital dollars, essentially. And then we move to the right and you have things that are tangible and fungible. So quarters, pennies, gold, bars of gold, things that you can physically hold, but aren't necessarily unique from one or the other, whether you hold them or I hold them. In the bottom left quadrant, you have things that are intangible and non-fungible. So those would be like digital assets, and sort of what we're going to reference more towards during this presentation: Bored Apes, CryptoKitties, CryptoPunks. All these unique digital assets are intangible and non-fungible. And then in the bottom right quadrant, we have tangible assets that are non-fungible. So those would be like custom cars, paintings, a home, something that's very unique in itself, but also physical. So a concept that I think is really just important to touch on, talking about cryptocurrencies in general and NFTs, is tokenization. So essentially, tokenization is using the blockchain as a digital ledger to store proof of ownership over some asset. So reading just right off the slide here, tokenization is the process of storing proof of ownership of an asset on an immutable digital ledger, aka the blockchain. So immutable digital ledger is just a few fancy words to describe what a blockchain is. And so blockchain technology essentially allows for verifiable ownership. It allows for a certificate of authenticity to exist in a transparent and immutable place, which is on a blockchain. And a blockchain, the concept of a blockchain could have its own presentation. And so I encourage you all to, watch YouTube videos and go on to Investopedia and learn a little bit more to gain some context. But essentially what you need to know about blockchain is that it's a ledger of transactions, sort of dictated by code and upheld by code. And so that's what makes it immutable and transparent as well in a lot of cases. So the next really interesting aspect to all this is this paradigm shift that we're seeing from IRL assets to this online world, right? And so there's really this new sense of value that people are taking in their online persona, their online clout, their online ownership, right? And so a cool example to think of is like the Twitter blue check mark. How much would somebody be willing to pay to get that next to their name? That is a digital asset, essentially. Somebody is putting value on something that's in an online like ecosystem, essentially. So to build on that, you can think of in-game skins and assets as NFTs. You can sort of imagine, if you've seen Ready Player One, that world where people are really giving almost more value to their life in that virtual world. And the internet is sort of this early stage metaverse where we're just all existing and we're flaunting our collectibles, our valuables, our cool skins in a game. So whether it's your skin in Fortnite or the blue check mark next to your name on Twitter, all these things are reflecting this paradigm shift that we're seeing. And so another aspect of that is just this crazy audience that you have of billions of people on the internet. Instead of, if you're wearing a Rolex, well, you're only going to be able to flaunt that to the people that you see in the coffee shop that you walk into. Whereas if you have a Bored Ape as your profile picture on Twitter, well, everybody on the internet gets to see that, and you get to be associated with all the cool celebrities that also own Bored Apes. So the question is, like, what is next? And sort of extrapolating out to the future of the internet, what is the next iteration? How are NFTs going to be implemented in the future? And we're in such early stages of NFTs. It's hard to really, really know, but we are seeing some inklings of like what the future could look like in terms of digital assets and NFTs and how that's going to look moving forward. So now just to start to get into some of the current implementations of NFTs, really the pioneering use case of NFTs was to digitize and tokenize art. So that could be digital art or physical art, but we're really seeing in the media a lot of talk about this digital art revolution where people are paying millions of dollars for a JPEG, right? And so that, like, people can't seem to really wrap their head around that until you actually go and buy something and you get to prove that you own it. Because the blockchain is transparent, everybody can see that you own that thing on the blockchain. So there's no faking ownership over something. There's no, whereas you could buy a pair of fake Yeezys or a fake Gucci bag, there's no faking ownership over a Bored Ape. So really it allows for this certificate of authenticity that I talked about earlier to exist on a blockchain and allows the owner to prove their ownership. And then the next piece of why art sort of is that pioneering use case for NFTs is the ability for artists to essentially receive royalties in perpetuity for any transaction that happens between any transaction of that asset. So in the old days, when an artist sold their piece of art, they sold it for whatever value they could get on that first sale. Well, now, if you have an asset that is sold, it could appreciate in value over time, and you're receiving royalties as the artist, as the creator, because of the ability to write into the smart contract, which is essentially the transactional, the details of the transaction. You can write it in so that you receive royalties every single time that asset changes hands. So that is this whole new paradigm for artists and creators to receive royalties forever on their assets. So the next implementation that really sparked this craze was PFP projects, or bigger collections. In the case of Bored Apes and a lot of these profile picture projects, PFP stands for profile picture. There's about 10,000 of them, and they're sort of randomly generated images using a bunch of different characteristics. And so each of the apes has their certain level of scarcity. So you could technically say one is more valuable than the other, but art is sort of in the eye of the beholder, right? So I think Justin Bieber said he bought his because his ape looked lonely, so he wanted that one, right? So it's really up to the buyer, and he paid some obscene amount of money for it. But really what these profile picture projects are, essentially they started as social clubs, but they've developed and they've evolved into so much more. A DAO is another use case for these projects, these PFP projects. DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. So essentially, it's a group of people that are working together to kind of get that project to move towards a certain goal. And so there's tons of variations of these different PFP projects that exist, and people are doing all kinds of things with them, different size collections, different types of variations, really cool, innovative stuff happening. But sort of the poster child, the blue chip project, is Bored Ape Yacht Club, that I'm going to dig into a little bit more as sort of a case study. The third implementation here on the right is play to earn. So using NFTs as in-game assets. So the image there is of a game called Axie Infinity. And in order to play Axie Infinity, you need the NFTs within the game to play. And in the game, you can earn the token of the game. So AXS is the in-game token. And as you play the game, you earn the token. And what had happened was that token suddenly took off in value. And so people were making, they were making like weekly salaries playing the game, pretty much, essentially. And so in the Philippines, there were people who were being hired to play the game for people who would go and buy the NFTs, hand them over to the people in the Philippines to play the game, and then revenue share with those people. So it was just this like crazy new paradigm shift of like, what are the possibilities here for the future of play to earn? So we have a lot of, the gaming community is huge. I'm not a huge gamer, so I can't speak super well to this, but essentially, like, if you can have an in-game token and use NFTs to allow for ownership of in-game assets, it just opens up a lot more doors and a lot more possibilities. The next implementation is governance tokens. So using NFTs as a way to allow people ownership over the project or the community that they are in. So giving people the ability to have a vote over the direction of a project through the ownership of that NFT. Lastly, on this slide, we have fractional ownership. So using NFTs to represent fractional ownership over something bigger. So it could be a brand or an organization or a musician, for example. And that brings us to the next slide, where music royalties are, NFTs are being used to distribute music royalties and streaming royalties of artists, of musicians. So for example, if you were on SoundCloud when Post Malone was popping off and you could somehow buy his NFT early on, if he distributed NFTs to people before he was known as Post Malone and you bought in, well, then you're going to be pretty happy that you bought a share of his success early on in his career. So finding artists really early on in their career, things like that, even doesn't have to be a musician. It could be an artist of any kind. Or for example, in the case of Logan, his project, if that becomes the next Harry Potter, imagine owning a piece of that early on. And then lastly, subscriptions. So like in real life social clubs, allowing you to only walk through the door if you have ownership of an NFT. For example, an NFT NYC this year, which is this giant convention in New York City where all the NFT projects are and throw events and stuff. I was able to go to Dead Mouse concert, Diplo concert, a bunch of amazing EDM concerts because I hold a certain NFT. And I got 2 tickets to each event because I held that. And I walked right through the door, brought my friends, didn't pay anything other than what I paid for the NFTs. So I feel I already got my money back from just owning that NFT, which was really, really cool. And I was like, wow, it clicks in your head when you're standing in front of Diplo and you're like in a small, beautiful venue and you're like, wow, I just got my money's worth. And I don't have, like, once you break even, essentially, you realize the potential for the future of what NFTs could be. So as the gift says, the possibilities are endless, and it's really up to the creator of the NFT to decide what they want to program into that NFT. So a little bit more of the nitty gritty, like of why use NFTs. Well, first, royalties, as I touched on earlier, artists and creators are paid in perpetuity. So royalties are received with every single transaction. Owners of NFTs can receive, this is another aspect, owners of NFTs can receive royalties from a project's success, like you would receiving dividends from owning a stock. So for example, you could be part of a project where the royalties earned by that project are redistributed to the token holders, to the NFT holders. Then you have one of the biggest, most important things, I believe, which is aligned incentives. So project owners and the NFT holders of the project are now both incentivized to help the project succeed, because project success essentially would mean value accrual for everyone. So if I own something, I want to show it to the world. If I own a Bored Ape, I want to show everybody and their mother, like, hey, I own a Bored Ape, because then word gets out. Once your grandmother's talking about a Bored Ape, then you know you've made it, and like people are willing to pay, as they are today, hundreds of thousands of dollars for NFTs, for Bored Apes, right? So that's where an NFT can become an investment, because an NFT can become worth more than you bought it for sometimes in like a very successful case. And right now we're sort of in a bear market for everything. So it's not a great time, but you know, people expect things to revive and NFTs to become sort of go through their next iteration and things to kind of bounce back. And when that happens, owning something that you bought in today's market for really cheap could be valuable in the future. So then, as I talked about earlier, generational ownership, right? Artists and creators and their relatives are going to receive royalties forever, as long as the internet exists, essentially. And so we look at many examples of artists, poets, writers, of their works not being appreciated till after they're dead. And so NFTs allow for the fact that your ancestors, your great grandkids, if you create some art in your lifetime that isn't appreciated while you're here, well, your grandkids could receive the benefits from that appreciating after you're gone, because it exists in code, and the ownership of that project is going to be passed down generationally if you hand it over in your trust or whatever. The next piece is sovereignty and security. So you hold your assets, not a third party. So in today's world, a lot of art is you're trusting somebody else to tell you that it's real. When you go to buy a classic art piece, you are just trusting a piece of paper that says, hey, this was handed down from this person to this person. Well, with a blockchain, there is no faking who owns it in what succession. So you're trusting in the code, and you're able, therefore, to trust that what you are receiving is authentic and real. The last piece is community building. So NFTs really enable community ownership. And that is so powerful when you can get a community behind something, and why it's really exciting for someone like Logan to get a community built behind a project, to believe in something together, and then to the point of aligned incentives, growing together and seeing it flourish together, seeing that project become something more. So this is the inevitable question that everybody asks: aren't NFTs a scam? Well, the short answer is it depends. And the first thing that comes up a lot is, isn't it just a JPEG? Isn't it just a PNG? Well, yes, but it's a JPEG that I own, and I'm able to prove that I own it. And you know what? I love the art. I love what it looks like. I get to show it off to my friends. And guess what? You can't say that you own it, because I can show you on the blockchain that I own it. And there's more and more ways to prove your ownership that are becoming more like, it's kind of inconvenient to go to the actual blockchain and pull up the fact that you own it. Now, Twitter's implementing things like doing a certain thing around your profile picture that proves that it's the real original NFT, stuff like that. As we see more evolution in the space, we're going to see more and more things like that, where proving ownership is a lot easier and a lot more mainstream. So next would be like, are NFTs a money grab? Well, sometimes they are. So that's why you have to do your own research. DYOR is something you hear a lot in the crypto space. Do your own research. Who is the team? Do they have a history of scamming? Do they have old projects that you can look at to see how those went? Or are they building something special? And people like Logan, people like, there's just amazing projects out there, amazing people out there building really cool things. And knowing who you're investing in, essentially knowing who you're buying into, can help you build conviction when you go to give somebody your hard-earned money. And then on the right here, thirdly, NFT culture is very real. There are real collectors, there are real users, there are real people leveraging NFTs to change their life. And the potential utility of NFTs is why there is so much passion around them, I think. But the things to look out for: market manipulation. There is NFT flipping is something that people make a ton of money doing, but you do just need to be careful, because with any trending financial opportunity, there's going to be people who will game the system and take advantage of newcomers. And you sort of, it's not a bad thing to necessarily learn the hard way, as I've done, but you do just have to be vigilant and be aware that there are people taking advantage of newcomers and new money in the space. So, and then there are things that happen like money laundering, as in any space, I think, and pump and dumps, or you hear about that a lot. Just being aware, again, doing your own research and sort of staying vigilant, buying into things that you truly believe in. So I wanted to dive into Bored Ape Yacht Club because it's a fascinating case study. Here's a bunch of things that are happening in their community that are just give you a taste of what's possible with NFTs. So the first one being a movie. There's a trilogy, a Bored Ape Yacht Club trilogy is in the making. Secondly, they have this massive video game that I'm going to show a trailer for after this slide. That's super cool. And then obviously it's a collector's item. Bored Ape has become a collector's item. It's like owning a Babe Ruth rookie card almost. It's this first mover in the space that is just going to exist as long as the internet does, and as long as the Ethereum blockchain exists, which is the Ethereum that, the blockchain that Bored Apes are minted on. Then people will always be able to say, hey, I was an original owner of this thing. And that is very real, as we know about collectors, card collectors and collector's items type of things. Then you have Bored Apes as a status symbol. Well, I own a Bored Ape. Well, guess what? Guess who else owns a Bored Ape? Mark Cuban, Post Malone, Snoop. Who else? There's so many. Diplo. So you're associating. It's almost like a cool kids club, right? And you are able to associate with there's only 10,000 other people maximum, right? Because a lot of people own multiple, but there's only 10,000 other apes in the world that will ever be. And so to be part of that feels really special. And then that's why it really is a community and a social club, and allows for the ability to network within that community and do things like amazing concerts. Like Bored Ape rented out Pier 17 in New York City for NFT NYC like the whole week, and like had amazing performers. It was just like everybody wanted to be there. It was like the cool kids club for sure. And they do things like IRL meetups, and they have just like this robust online community of entrepreneurs and forward thinking tech people. It's just a really cool thing to be part of. And the barrier to entry is, I think it's like $100,000 at the moment. So it's a really high barrier to entry to get into that club. Next, which goes along with everything in the top row, sort of IP ownership. You have the ability to sort of make your ape famous, and your ape could be the star of a movie. And if you are, you're going to get paid like a star of a movie. So owning that IP is really valuable. And Logan might touch on that a little bit more when we get to his slide. And then there's somebody who opened a Bored Ape restaurant around their apes. And then lastly, there's a band. There's like this kingship, is I guess it's called, and there's a legit band of apes. So it's really just pretty wild what's happening, and we're in such early stages. It's just fun to see what sticks and what doesn't, and also just like the holistic view of everything that's happening. So I want to play this trailer of it's called The Other Side, which is this metaverse that Bored Ape, the company behind Bored Apes, is creating. And so it'll give you an idea of how big what they're doing really is. Hopefully you can hear this.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, yeah. We chased our pleasures here, dug our treasures there, but can you still recall the time we cried, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side.
Those are all NFTs in there as well, so that's crypto. Totally. So yeah, it's pretty cool what's happening with The Other Side and Bored Apes, and there's a long way to go before it all comes to fruition, but it's pretty exciting, I think. And people were speculating. You can speculate on buying land in that metaverse. So people are buying up land inside that metaverse for thousands of dollars. It's really pretty wild. So there's just it's a good ways down the road, but people are really just getting excited about what's to come with all of that. So this next slide is about sort of getting started with NFTs. So the first thing that I think is necessary is to sort of commit to that learning curve, and you're already doing a really good job by even being here and listening. But there's just an undeniable friction of getting started right now, and hopefully within the next few years that gets easier, and you don't need to necessarily know how to use a wallet, and all these things that are friction points currently. But commit to that learning curve early, because being here early it's going to pay off in the end. I believe that's why I'm here, and I think, you know, many of you may be, just because you understand that there is something happening here that we could be early to, and that could be really valuable if we time it right. So if you know a friend that may be into the space, ask for help. Use Discord, use Twitter, use YouTube. Ask people. I think people that are in the space now that aren't just here to make money want to help people learn. So don't be afraid to ask. Learn to use MetaMask. MetaMask is the wallet that you need to sort of connect to OpenSea currently. I think you can actually pay with a credit card on OpenSea now. So there may be a few different ways to do it, but MetaMask is a bit tricky, but once you learn how to use it and get the hang of it, it's pretty straightforward. So another thing to just think about is market timing. We're obviously in a really tough market right now in general. The stock market, the crypto market, NFTs are going to probably hurt disproportionately worse, I would say. So just be careful with that. Define your goals and your aims with NFTs. Are you in it to be a builder? Are you in it to be a flipper? Like, what are you really in it for? And I think a lot of people here, you're all creators, so you're all thinking creatively, and how can I leverage the technology? And so being a builder in a bear market, I think, is really smart. So next thing is OpenSea. OpenSea.io is the website, sort of like the eBay for NFTs. Play around with it, look on it, and kind of try to understand. Everything's priced in Ethereum, so you have to understand the price of it. You have to convert the price of Ethereum to US dollars to understand how much things are worth. You can look at the transaction history. You can see what it was sold for and bought for. There's things that were, sold for 500 ETH at the peak of Ethereum's price, and now they're worth, they're selling for below an ETH. Like, there's crazy fluctuations. So it gives you an idea of the volatility of the space. And then, yeah, buy, sell, create, explore, experiment, and just have fun with it. It's a really fun, exciting space to be in because it's so new. And I think learning it early is going to pay off later on. I think that's it. So then now this brings us to Logan's slide. So Logan is the creator, director, filmmaker of a sci-fi trilogy called Spire. And he's going to talk a lot more about that and what he's doing and how he's thinking about NFTs to implement them into what he's doing. So thanks for being here, Logan, too.
Thank you, Ace. You did a great job with that. So my name's Logan Stone. I understand that there's a lot of creators in this Zoom right now. What's perfect for NFTs, we really identified that NFTs are such a solution to a huge problem that we saw as a team of creators making this thing happen. And that, as I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, actually, if everyone would, in the chat, I get everyone's a creator, go in the chat and just like enter, like, what is it that you're building? Like, what's the dream? Like, what do you want to make? Maybe you want to make, maybe you're a musician, maybe you're, you create videos and you want to do, want to make films with my own music. Fuck yeah. Okay, great. Maybe you're a filmmaker and you want to have a TV show, for example, or maybe you want to make, a comic book, or you want to do, maybe you want to win an Oscar or something. Photography NFTs. Inspire and entertain through gaming. I'm on my phone, sorry. Gaming and lifestyle videos. Okay, awesome. So if you haven't entered it yet, I invite you to just get clear, make an Oscar nominee feature film, shoot short films, traveling videos. Awesome. So for us, my answer to this question is like, I really wanted to make the next like epic sci-fi movie trilogy, comedy skits. Perfect. So again, for me to identify that, it's like, I realize that there's this enormous barrier to entry, which is you got to have the intellectual property, which is something that Ace touched on, but also like anything, you know, you need to have the community. And so NFTs just make perfect sense to be able to build the community around the idea. So I invite all of you to consider, you know, where you can apply NFTs in building what it is that you're up to. And I think probably the biggest value that I personally see from NFTs is in the community. It's in the community development. You know, all of Web3 really lives and dies on the community that you have. And so we live in a world now where we have social media. Any of us could go viral tomorrow, posting some video, got picked up, got a bunch of traction, and you inspire all these people, or you know, create this attention, you create this viral media, and inside of that message that you put out, if that maybe it's a call to action to join something, right? Even this meeting that we're on right now, there's such an opportunity to enroll people into what it is that you're building. And so long as you have an interesting pitch and it resonates with people, what it is that they're up to, you know, maybe they're just a fan, maybe that you've got them hooked with this amazing story and you want to, you know, you're on this mission. For the photography NFT people, for example, maybe it's like, you know, I'm on a mission to take an iconic photo in every country in the world. So I'm going to go travel to every country. That's my mission. I'm going to vlog it and I'm going to take the photo, and every photo is going to be an NFT. It'll be a collection or something, right? I invite one of you to do that because I think that'd be cool. I would buy your NFT if that was the pitch, right? But the idea is, the more that you talk about it and you go on social media and you share about what it is that you're up to, then it becomes this thing where you're building your community, and now they all, like, you're literally building a community of fans, that raving fans. They say you only need, I think it's 100. I've also heard 1,500 raving fans to launch any business, to basically be successful at something. So for us, you know, with this, you know, there's a term called BHAG, which is big, hairy, audacious goal. It scared the shit out of me. It would be like, all right, fuck, we're going to go make this movie trilogy. So where the first place started was, you know, looking at something like Ace touched about, you know, he talked on Harry Potter, right? So let's say like you're reading the very first Harry Potter book and you read about this world and you're like, oh my God, this is such a captivating, the imagination of this woman, J.K. Rowling. And so you go online and you see that they're minting wands, 10,000 wands. And the utility of the wand could be, you know, you get sorted into some, you know, sub community within the Harry Potter community, but it's like your access pass into digital Hogwarts, right? With that, you get, you know, a free ticket to every movie that comes out, a free book gets mailed to your address. You get, you know, behind the scenes stuff with the cast. Maybe if you have a really rare one for like the Harry Potter nerds in the group, like you've got like the Elder Wand equivalent, like you've got like the special one, right? Or some rare trait. Now you've got this, you know, now you get to go on set. You get to actually meet the people at the cast party. You get to be there at the table read, right? So the sky really is the limit for anything that you're up to, anything that you're building, so long as you create that kind of like that economy, the economy in the form of whatever the token is. It could be photos, it could be your logo, it could be, there's a randomized factor, as Ace was talking about, the kind of the scarcity element of it. But give your community something to trade and to follow your journey, follow your process of what it is that you're making, and you can make anything. You know, it really comes down to, just to like kind of recap, it's community, like build the community through the token. And then also like with tools like social media, with tools, you know, honestly, social media aside, like one-on 20 conversations like this, or one-on-one conversations with people in your immediate network. And there's really nothing that you can't do. Yeah, I'm wondering if anyone has any questions. Maybe this is a good point to kind of transition into that point. But, or Ace, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I love what you were saying. I think it was great to sort of give some concrete context to what I was talking about. So thank you for doing that.
Totally.
And that was a crazy good free idea, by the way. That was sick. I hope somebody does that in this group. That would be amazing.
Oh, I'll also just say real quick. So my email is in that last slide, logan@loganstone.com. That's available if anyone, especially if you're in the film world and you're looking at like how to navigate, whether it's like TV shows and stuff or, feature filmmaking, the door's open. I'd love to like, in the spirit of like giving back to a lot of very, very doesn't know where to start. So feel free to use that email. Ace as well. I go to Ace when I have questions too. So like Ace knows his stuff. So
I think it's so nice to just have people to bounce ideas off of, and because everybody has a little bit of a different perspective on things. So it's really just helpful to have that that network of people in the space that are just tinkering with things, and you're building something real, and I'm just sort of more of a pedestrian spectator type of person at the moment. But I think it all works together well when we can, use our ideas and put our heads together.
yeah, I completely agree.
Looks like we got a question. Sorry if I'm butchering your guy's name. Uskatwanik. Are NFTs protected by law? Is this still people on the other side that need to honor what is coded in the blockchain, right? I don't know who we could center this question to.
It's an interesting thing. It's almost like what I hear in the question. Let's say I bought a painting, like a physical painting. If it's like when you say protected by law, my question is really like, what do you mean by when you say protected by law? And maybe the answer to that is kind of what Ace was saying, like it's programmed into the blockchain. There's this whole term around it being trustless. Like you don't even need to trust. You don't need to have anyone enforce anything because it's by nature of the blockchain. If I send it to so-and-so, there's not really any need for, there's no like litigation potential, if that.
Yeah. And I think it's like any asset, like the buying and selling of any asset, you do like need to, it is a bit like the Wild West right now, and people are finding loopholes and, like I said, taking advantage of the system because it's so nascent. But at the same time, like it is like buying and selling any asset, and you can sort of use a cost basis method to understand, did I make do I have capital gains on this buying and selling, or do I have losses? It's the same sort of principle and idea. I'm not super fluent in sort of the legal aspects of things, but when it comes to things like IP rights, there are specific things you can, when you buy an NFT, there are specific stipulations within being an owner of that NFT on whether you have the ownership over the IP rights. Like, for example, CryptoPunks did not allow for IP ownership over their CryptoPunks initially, but then actually the company Yuga Labs, which owns Bored Apes, they then bought CryptoPunks and then allowed for the owners to have IP ownership, I believe. So there are nuances when it comes to IP ownership, and there are basic things that you should know, like you can't just like hide the money you make when you buy and sell NFTs and make money on them. But there are definitely some complexities and nuances that I don't really want to speak to because I'm not a lawyer or somebody that's qualified to speak about it. But yeah, it's definitely worth looking into when you're kind of going down that rabbit hole if you get deep enough.
I have a clarifying for Jackson, who just wrote the
Can
last
I jump in for a minute?
Jackson, are you off mute right now?
Oh, hi. Sorry, I'm at the gym right now. Hello.
So you asked
Hi.
a question, which was, I imagine at least one other person may also have the same question. Your question was, there are a lot of agreements. If you breach an agreement, then then that's where it's a problem. So my clarifying question is like, what you like rephrase your question maybe in another way?
I guess it wasn't really meant as a question. It was, I guess it was more to like answer, I guess, whoever talked about like is NFT part of the law or something like that. So, I mean, I think that's with any agreement, right? And obviously, if I like agree to do something with you and I don't do something upon the agreement, I breach our agreement, then that's where I guess the law could be brought in if that case needs to happen.
So yeah. That's actually touches on something really important in that, you know, I'm sure you've heard the term smart contract.
Mm-hmm.
So an NFT literally is a smart contract. Picture like a box, right? The box, on the cover of the box is the artwork. That's your Bored Ape, is like, that's the cover of the thing. But inside the box are all these programmed rules that are into it. You know, what is a contract outside of rules of operating a certain way, you know, or an agreement that you have? We're making an agreement that I pay $dollars and you know, you're my personal trainer, you know. I'm getting a steal, by the way, if I'm paying you $10 for personal training. But
that's where the royalties that we were talking about are coded into it. So that's where those hard-coded rules make it so that you can't fake or get around the system. Just to jump in, Logan, sorry.
Yeah, oh, you're right. I'm getting emails here. Yeah, so yeah, to just to touch on that point there, it's like the actual contract itself, there is no, like, the contract is the agreement. You know, the actual NFT contains within it all of the rules, all of the agreements, and that when you click the button, the buy now button, you are, in fact, you're signing that agreement in your wallet that says, you know, I agree to give up X% for the creator fee. I agree to pay this much, and it's the digital handshake. And once there's nothing physical that we need to enforce at that point. It's all in the blockchain, and it's the agreement has been fulfilled almost on the creation of the agreement, almost, if that makes sense.
And that's where the principle of like decentralization comes in, right? We're not trusting a third party to take care of that transaction and hold on to that piece of paper that says I sold Logan my Bored Ape, right? It's all in the code, and it's owned by nobody, but owned by everybody, all the people running the network, which are the sort of now we're getting into sort of like the mining aspect and the nodes of a network. But there's a network run by a global network of computers that are all agreeing on something together. And that's called consensus, where we're all agreeing that this is the true ledger. And that's why that transaction is honest and real. And we all agree it happened.
Yeah. Yep. Sebastian just summarized it there.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, every transaction is a confirmation of a smart contract, which makes it legally valid, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's definitely legality around all of it.
Yeah.
Like whether, you know, your wallet address isn't necessarily associated with your name, but you can't really get around the law anymore with cryptocurrency. Initially, that's what it was supposed to be. Bitcoin was supposed to be sort of this digital cash where it was not traceable, and that's why it was used to buy like things on the black market. But things have changed, and now you can really trace things back, and it's not the same. You can't really get away with doing shady stuff anymore unless you're super smart.
Yeah, right. Juan just asked, what is the process to creating an NFT? For example, if you have a photo, how does it become an NFT? What factors help it successful? There's a lot of marketplaces. OpenSea is touted as the largest platform. You know, first of all, you have to create a wallet. That's like, you know, I almost think about it. It's very easy to think about it like Facebook, for example. Facebook, you've got to like create you got to register for your profile, right? And then you are basically creating the post. And when you create the post, where Facebook prints it to the Facebook server, what the blockchain does is when you post the photo and you create it, you set the price for it and you post it, it's almost like an eBay listing or a Facebook post on the thing, but however, it lives on the blockchain. Everyone agrees everything once you post it, and there's, that global network verifies, okay, X and so wallet user posted this profile posted this thing, this is the list price, that smart contract is printed onto the blockchain, and now people can interact with it however it is that they want to do it. They could buy it, they could do whatever. As far as what makes it successful, also kind of pointing to a Facebook, so if you have a lot of followers, if you have, it's not just limited to followers, but it's just, it's the same question could be asked, if you were to sell your art, if you were to sell your photography in a gallery, what would make that photo valuable? There is the case of, art, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Maybe someone really particularly really just likes your art that you made and they want to own it. Another approach could be, this person has 1 million, this person's reach is huge. And so the value of this is going to be big because of the existing draw that they already have. So the value really, it depends, but I think the factors are, pretty similar across really any business, which is the reach of your, your marketing, basically. How are you going to market it?
And there's actually a number of ways to go back to how to create an NFT. There's a number of ways of doing it. You can simply just post it on OpenSea, and that's probably the most simplistic way of doing it. You essentially go on, connect your wallet to OpenSea, and then you can literally just upload the file and post it, and then you can allow for, similar to eBay, you can post an ask price, and then it's up to you to really market it. Nobody's just going to go and buy your thing unless it's, an amazing piece of art, or you have a buyer that you're setting up. And then there's also different other ways to do it, where a little bit more involved, where you have to hire coders and people who are familiar with the Ethereum ecosystem and are able to do something like, it's called like a mint. So essentially, for when Bored Apes launched, you would go to the Bored Ape website and you would mint from their website. You would mint. So essentially you would create, it's sort of like the genesis of the token in that moment when you click mint. And then it sort of populates onto OpenSea because it's all connected to the Ethereum blockchain, essentially. And then there's also other marketplaces, competing marketplaces, that are trying to be a better version of OpenSea. OpenSea is primarily Ethereum based, so there's a bunch of different blockchains. There's Ethereum, there's Solana. Solana has its own marketplace, but I believe OpenSea is integrated with Solana now. There's blockchains that are essentially trying to improve what a blockchain is, and the blockchain trilemma is scalability, security, and decentralization, I believe. So it's really hard to have all three of those things: scalability, the throughput of how many transactions can happen in transactions per second, and then the security of that blockchain, and then also the decentralization factor of the blockchain. So all three of those factors are what's called the blockchain trilemma, and trying to perfect and optimize each of those is what the current blockchain world is trying to solve and do. And so Ethereum's good. It's a little slow. It's pretty decentralized. It's pretty secure, but it's a little slower than a lot of people would like. And it costs a lot to do business on the network. And that's another aspect of trading and using the Ethereum network. If you're not familiar, you have to pay a gas fee, which essentially goes to the miners, those people out there running the network, because somebody needs to be incentivized, because it's not a third party doing all the work. Well, we pay a gas fee because that has to go to the miners for doing the work. And it's sort of distributed in a really elegant way that's way above my head. So. Okay, so Sky said, let's say I sell an art piece as an NFT. Does the buyer have full rights to it? Is she able to resell the bought NFT? Yes. Once the transaction happens and it changes hands, it's no longer yours. It's out of your wallet. So everything's associated with your wallet address. And as soon as that transaction is confirmed, that NFT like is no longer in your wallet. That smart contract has been amended, and then the owner is whoever bought it from you.
The second part to that question too is perfect, because this is actually something that we're doing. He said that I could see flipping art pieces could be problematic in some ways. Basically, the question is there a contract that can be made where flipping is prohibited, meaning like you can't sell it? And there are such a thing as non-transferable tokens. And how we're applying this is that we're going to give non-transferable credit tokens to everyone who helped make the trilogy possible. And so what that looks like is it's verifiable. That person can never trade away their, I was the cinematographer for, this film, for example, or I produced this film, or I whatever. So there's a way that you can kind of stamp it, give someone that badge that they get to enjoy, having that token for themselves. It could be, something as far as like how Ace used his ticket to get into the concert, right? In the future, in the not too distant future, actually, that token NFT, you might buy your ticket as an NFT, or you might buy your, if I was going to bring on a producer onto my movie, and they need to get on set, well, here's my, I'll pull up my app and we'll scan in, I'm the producer, here we go. It's verifiable. Security knows that you're a producer, and now they're on set. Now that's how they get in. That could be one application for it. But like Ace said, we're in such the infancy of all this that it's growing and developing at such a speed that is honestly very exciting. But there's no doubt in my mind that, while the term NFT now might be kind of foreign to some, the smart contract blockchain technology is going to be in every part of our life, for as long as we're around. So yeah, the time is now. I acknowledge everyone who's on this call, even if you're, if you're seasoned and you kind of know these concepts already, especially if you're, just brand new to these ideas. Because honestly, you're putting yourself quite a ways ahead of the pack when the global marketplace, the global population makes its way over into Web3, and that wave is coming. So props to everyone showing up.
Totally. And just to elaborate a little bit more on that point of like using smart contracts as programmable money, to answer this question that just came up. Yes. Is it possible to make it so that if the person that bought the photo NFT from me sells it, I get a percentage of what the buyer sells it for? Yeah. And that's exactly what we were talking about with royalties. So that's essentially what a royalty is the original creator is always receiving kickbacks from every transactional change of hands. And so similarly with flipping art pieces, like if your art's getting flipped, well, great. If you're the creator, that's just more money in your pocket, essentially. And you can really program whatever you want into the NFT, to the smart contract. So we're seeing a lot of innovative things happen. Like, for example, like I did this project, or I bought into a project where I had 45 days to return it and get my money exactly for what I bought it at. So normally that wasn't possible. And now it is. So with the ability to it's just another example of how cool being able to program the contracts is. So
guys, we hit our hour mark. Thank you so much. We can answer one more question, or Logan, you could throw in your last point there. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's it. I mean, I think the last thing I'll say just around the royalties aspects of it is, if we look at the music industry, for example, it's not uncommon for the label to take, 80% of the master of the all the revenue generated from the song. They'll blow it up. You can have your 20% as the artist, especially if you're a new artist. but we're going to take 80% and get it on the radio, and we'll collect our fee, right? And the beauty of what the blockchain does, you know, if you can look for ways to apply this to your own business, your own art, even if you're not a musician. But if we look at the musician case, let's say you switched the roles, and now you gave away, you know, you held on to 80%, and or maybe you split it 50-50 or whatever it looks like. Let's say you hold on to the 20%. And now indefinitely, so long as people are trading your music NFTs, you're collecting the royalty on one album. That one album can be generational wealth, you know, so long as you continue to promote the album, you continue to create art, you continue to create music, create your photography, create all of your stuff, because all of these collections that you release, whether it's a one-off NFT or a, you know, an album of photos or an album of music, that is, you know, it's each of those can supply you and your family with generational wealth. You know, the possibility really is endless. And now you're not splitting, you know, you're not giving 80% away, just build the audience. So yeah, it's exciting times. And thank you all. Thank you, Peter, Ace, and yeah, best of luck to everyone.
I want to give the biggest shout out to Ace Cowans, just for the beautifully detailed, insightful introduction into NFT for a creator, and Logan just being that reference and showing the people how you can really utilize it, implement it to its fullest potential, kind of like what you're doing for these creators. On that note, guys, thank you so much. Community, just spam the chat right now. Big thank yous, please. Some flame emojis for the homies. Big love to you guys. You guys blasted this. I honestly thought every single point was on key with this whole presentation. Very aligned with this community, and just once again, thank you guys so much. We love to end these Zooms with the big community photo. So maybe if you want to stop sharing your screen, Ace, if anyone wants to turn on their if everyone wants to turn off their cameras or turn them on, or we can get one big beautiful photo with the beautiful KC fam for our Instagram stories. We're gonna go and let's give it a big peace sign, or whatever your heart desires. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you guys so much. Logan, Ace, again, big blessings to you, and I hope you guys enjoy this chat.
Oh yeah.
Till next one.
Thank you all.
Thanks everyone.
Ciao.
Later.